It cannot be denied that Serie A used to be more exciting than the English Premier League. In the first 10 years of the 21st century, teams from Italy reached the Champions League final 5 times, winning it 3 times. The power did not just belong to Juventus or Milan, but there was competition from many other teams. This was a period when Serie A was supported by a group of 7 sister clubs backed by owners who were willing to invest and fight for titles. However, Italian football has lost its prestigious status since then, and now Serie A only has seasons that lack both competitiveness and money. So why has a league with teams that were once football legends fallen into decline? During the winter transfer window in January, English clubs spent over €800 million to upgrade their squads, while Serie A clubs could only spend £33 million in the same period. Even Bournemouth, a club at the bottom of the Premier League, spent more than €50 million. There was a time when AC Milan had the Dutch trio of Van Basten, Gullit, and Rijkaard, Inter had the German trio, Napoli had Maradona, Juventus had Platini, and even Udinese had Zico. But now, Serie A clubs can only sign players who are available for transfer in England or other leagues, as well as sign contracts with lesser-known players in the hopes that they will become stars one day. However, just last year, everything was not as gloomy as it is now for Juventus during the winter transfer season, as they spent over £80 million to bring in Dusan Vlahovic to Fiorentina. But things have gotten much worse this year, with a league that can only spend just over €30 million on purchases, making it difficult to maintain competitiveness with other top leagues. Part of the reason for this may be because Juventus, the flagship team of Serie A for many years, is currently in crisis. Recently, the club was accused of fraud in the transfer market by the Italian Football Federation, and a number of high-level personnel have resigned, pushing the team into a legal battle that is expected to last for some time. The deduction of 15 points from Juventus is just the beginning. These events remind us of the Calciopoli scandal of 2006, which had a significant impact on Italian football, including Inter Milan winning the Champions League championship in 2010. Until now, no team has been able to win the highest European title anymore. The only bright spot in Italian football is the Euro 2020 title, but immediately afterwards, they failed to qualify for the 2022 World Cup. From 2010 to 2018, Juventus was the most successful team in the country, both domestically and in Europe. During that time, the club's home stadium was expanded, generating more revenue and creating a strong brand image. Since bringing in Ronaldo in 2018, Inter and Milan have also begun to rise again, and teams like Napoli and AS Roma have also started to compete to make the league more attractive. Napoli is now closer than ever to their first Scudetto title in the 21st century, and their first Silver Cup in 33 years, which shows that the attractiveness of this league will be great if clubs invest in it correctly. The dominance of Napoli in this season also shows how much Juventus has been struggling since COVID-19, and the departure of Ronaldo now adds to the financial fraud story that is, and will greatly affect Italian football. This is a major drawback that the teams in Serie A have suffered compared to other prominent leagues like the Premier League. One reason is that when Ronaldo left, it also led to a decrease in revenue from TV rights. In other countries, teams receive a lot of money from TV rights, so their total revenue is high, allowing them to continue to spend money on purchasing and paying players. The sports director of AS Roma, Tiago Pinto, has said that the competitiveness of the teams in Serie A is only at the level of newly promoted teams in the Premier League. Therefore, it is difficult for Italian representatives to compete for top players in the current economic context. UEFA's new financial fair play regulations introduced in 2022 have an important point that club spending cannot exceed 70% of their income, which may increase in the coming years, including salary costs, transfer fees, and contract renewal fees. In Italy currently, most clubs spend half of their revenue on salaries alone. For example, Juventus in the 2020-21 season had a total revenue of €437 million, of which the salary fund was €236 million and did not include other operating costs. Therefore, many teams will have to significantly cut their budgets to comply with the new regulations and ensure participation in the European Cup. Many sports newspapers criticize UEFA for protecting the wealthy teams in England without encouraging development in other leagues. They believe this will be a disaster for the Italians. Only Milan and Atlanta have complied with the regulation, with AC Milan having a salary fund of €51 million thanks to their youth policy. While returning to the Champions League and signing new sponsorship deals, AC Milan's revenue reached €216 million in the 2020-2021 season. Meanwhile, an article in the Gazzetta dello Sport mocked the financial gap between Atlanta and Paris Saint-Germain, with the entire Atlanta team receiving €16 million, while Neymar alone earns €36 million. Looking at the Serie A club salary budgets, we see that the numbers have not decreased, but increased compared to the 2020-21 season. This is understandable, because offering good salaries is necessary to retain players, but it continues to put pressure on Italian teams to increase revenue to make up for the shortfall. Recently released annual reports on the world's highest revenue-generating football clubs once again showed that Italian teams are falling behind financially, compared to major clubs in Europe. Juventus is still the club with the highest revenue in Italy, but they have not made the top 10 on this list for the first time since the 2017-18 season. However, Juventus is under strong financial pressure, as they have suffered heavy losses in 2 consecutive seasons, with the latest deficit of €254 million, being the largest in Serie A history. Next on the ranking is Inter Milan, the reigning Supercoppa Italiana champions, who have maintained 14th place on the list for the 5th consecutive year, generating €308 million in revenue last year, a 7% decrease compared to 2021. When revenue cannot increase, sports clubs cannot make improvements. As a result, recruiting top stars becomes even more difficult for Italian football teams. Without quality players to increase competition in the European arena, teams will struggle to attract attention and earn more money. This has created a vicious cycle for Italian football in recent years. There are significant challenges facing Serie A, but when the value of the league drops, it is a good time to receive investments. The world's oldest financial services company, JP Morgan Chase, has written a letter to the Italian Football Federation expressing preliminary interest in supporting the development of Serie A's media business. According to sources, 20 clubs, including Serie A, were informed of the interest at a recent private meeting. JP Morgan is expected to provide between €700 million and €1 billion to support the league, and Serie A officials are considering the possibility. In 2021, JP Morgan supported teams interested in establishing the Super League. However, the league collapsed due to opposition from fans and politicians across Europe. With its enormous financial resources, the American bank could help Serie A overcome its current difficulties and potentially revive it to some extent. It is exciting to see what the future holds for Italian football. If this happens, it will be a significant boost for one of the largest football nations in Europe.